Now we get to talk to Mike Golding on the Sailing Anarchy Report from Les Sables d'Olonne. Here we are at the beginning of the Vendée Globe, and this guy has gone around more than anyone else in this fleet. Mike, how are you, bro?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. We're in the final week, final countdown, so just looking forward to getting out there and going sailing now.
You mentioned that you felt like a gladiator about to be fed to the lions here with all these. Do you think you're going to overcome the lions this time? It's been a while since you made it around without a problem.
Well, yeah. I mean, we obviously completed the race in 2:04 in third place, but even that wasn't without its difficulties. Finishing the race without a kill,
unbelievable.
So yeah. And the last edition, obviously, we're leading the race and dismasted. So I was pretty gutted by that, and as a consequence for that, I came back swearing not to get on an Amoca boat for another couple of years.
How long did that take before you turned that around?
2 years. I did what I said. So I went Extreme 40 sailing and did 2 years on the X40 circuit, which I loved. It was a great sort of refresher, and got all your passion for the sport back and for the competition back. And in the last year, we were third in the Extreme Sailing Series, so we did a good job of it. I really enjoyed it, and it was great fun to do. But the Vendée was always looming. And
you can't get this race out of your blood. I mean, that's what they all tell me.
Yeah, I think once it's in your system, it's pretty hard to get it out of your system. And I'm very fortunate to be able to come back and compete in my fourth edition of the race. I've had 2 round alones, 4 Vendée Globes, 2 challenge races, and a solo non-stop around the world. So I've had a fair few turns around the planet. So I feel very, very lucky, very fortunate, and it's with the support of GAMESA, who've been great, and everything kind of came together at the right time. We had a good budget, so we were able to make a positive selection whether to go with the existing platform or build new. We've elected to go with the existing platform. This is a fast boat. It always has been a fast boat.
This is the old Ecover 3, but you've changed a lot, obviously. I mean, the first thing I noticed, you've got solar panels under our feet. Yeah. Obviously, working for a wind power company, yeah. I imagine you've got to be a little bit more eco-friendly than before, yeah?
Well, I mean, to be honest, your average Amoca 60, in fairness, is not an unenvironmentally friendly bit of kit. The amount of fuel we take to do a 3-month race is negligible.
100 litres, 150 litres now?
Exactly. It's really small anyway, even if you didn't have any other stuff. But our objective is to have a start weight as light as possible, and that means using more and more systems. But the other benefit of the systems, it means you're not totally reliant on a generator or an alternator to provide that power. And if the engine breaks, I've got hydro generators, I've got solar power, I've got wind power. I'm doing in a microcosm of what we all need to do on a much larger scale, which is to have a little bit of the energy mix everywhere spread about. And for me, it's a performance choice. It's not an environmental choice.
Well, and that's how to make them stick, right? Is make it about performance, and it sticks. If it's just about marketing and feeling good about yourself, it doesn't stick, because then you lose.
Exactly. And for me, it's a performance choice, and what we have is not only a lighter start weight by carrying less fuel at the beginning, but we also have redundancy, and that redundancy is perhaps almost the key element in a 3-month non-stop without assistance race.
Yeah. What about, I mean, we look around the fleet and we see that sponsors, that energy sponsors are becoming more and more prominent. Obviously, there's a nice fit with sailing. But, I think the cynics out there sort of say, well, this isn't going to last. It's not really, long term. You're still using some of the most ridiculous petrochemicals you can to make these things. Is it a trend that you think we'll see more and more of? Or is it, the world's a little a little clean energy happy right now, but, when there's less wars and when the prices go down, it won't be as big a deal?
I think you have to look at sailing, even if you stand back, even if you know nothing about it, it is a fundamentally clean sport. I understand what you're saying about the petrochemicals that go into constructing the boat, but I mean, you could argue and say, well, at least all less carbon is locked up. It's not going anywhere. But I mean, the reality of it is, yes, it is. The boats are made out of carbon fibre. But the sport itself is fundamentally clean. It's honest sport. It has old-fashioned values, and it's universal from, whether you're in America or whether you're in the UK, in Europe. There is something very clean and very open about sailing as a sport, and just the fact that as we sit here now, we have thousands of people walking down the dock here, touching the boat, spotting the skippers. This kind of openness could exist in no other sport other than sailing. So going back to your original question about the energy companies, I think it's a great fit. It is a great fit. It's a natural fit, and I think this is just the beginning, rather than
that's great news.
Rather than something that's going to be a flash in the pan.
It's great news, and as a cynic myself, but it's easy to be cynical, but like, we're all out there, and we want the environment to be better. We want it to be cleaner. We don't just want the money to make the sport grow or get our sponsor, but we would like to see this water get cleaner and the air get cleaner. So it does fit. I hate being cynical, but I want people like you to keep telling me it's good and it keeps growing, and we're at the beginning of it rather than
I mean, let's be straight. The reason these companies are doing it is a straightforward commercial exposure. Sure. I mean, that there's no question about it. It's just like we talked about earlier about energy. We're doing it for performance reasons, but there are environmental pluses. These companies are sponsoring these boats and energy companies, and that's great for the sport, and it's good for commercial reasons, and hopefully they'll do well out of that exposure, and they'll create more business as a result. I mean, in the end, everyone's in the game for something, right. And so long as the net goal, the net end product is positive, well, and I think it's undeniable. None of us can shake off the fact that we need to do something about our energy mixes in all of our countries, whatever's going on. So, why not? This is a great arena to demonstrate that. One of the cool boats here, and I'm sure you're going to have a look around it, is Acciona, who's the next generation of this boat. And that's a really admirable project.
Do you think it's been a lot easier for them because Owen Clark designed their boat to be engineless? A little bit easier for them to have those systems working properly, or not really?
No, I think any of these boats you could retrofit that system. I mean, I think with Acciona they've really invested the time in it from a technical perspective to make that project work. It's very hard for us to just snap our fingers today and say, go and buy a load of batteries and an electric motor and we'll make it all work. They haven't done that. They've really worked at this project over consistently. What we have, I think, is still the most competitive solution. What they have is the most it's a as good environmental solution, but I think their finish weight will be much higher than ours. So as a consequence, you've got to strike the balance between what your goals are. And I think Bubby's pretty realistic about his goals. He wants to do well in the race, and I think he can with that boat. It's a very fast boat, but I think realistically he's got a little bit of not lead acid, but he's got a little bit of lithium ion on his foot that he's going to be trailing around with him. So and he knows this. He knows that. But his objective, he's going to win if he just finishes, to be honest, because the reality is that's a unique project. Right.
Whereas you've already got a third place, so you need to perform in order to make yourself feel good about this, correct? I mean, what about the field though? Okay, we're missing some of the superstars. We have no Bilou, we have no Mishdej, so we're missing some of the superstars. But it seems like a really deep fleet with some really fast boats. All those new Verdier boats, the Phare boats are obviously still super fast. What do you rate? I mean, I know what do you rate your positives and negatives, your strengths and weaknesses compared to some of the newer guys and newer boats?
I think what was interesting in the last edition is we had no idea. We had a lot of young guys. We had 30 boats. We had a lot of new boats, 12 new boats, in fact. And we set out in the race absolutely unclear whether we'd made the right technical choice in building this boat, because I was sitting here at the same time 4 years ago looking at aircraft carrier style 1K monster boats with huge rigs and huge powers, and thinking I'd made the wrong technical choice. And I was sitting on the dock here literally thinking, oh my God, what are we going to do? But as it turned out, it didn't really shape out that way. And the other thing is, there was a lot of talented sailors, and Mish included, in that race. But what happened was the experienced guys gravitated towards the front of the fleet, and very quickly you found that it took a long time. Halfway across the Southern Ocean, suddenly you've got Jean Le Cam, you've got all the experienced people around you, and the newer guys had fallen by the wayside. Now some of those newer guys back then are now here again today, and you say they're not the superstars, but they kind of are the new superstars.
So who are you most fearful of?
Most fearful of. I mean, I think Jean-Pierre is a big challenge. I mean, he's not a new guy by any stretch of the imagination, but I think Jean-Pierre's project has always been one to admire. They have a great team, and they put a really nice project together. If I were to want to swap boats down this dock, that would be the boat I would go for, without a question. Massive, Bank Popular, both great boats. Young guys, and in the case of Bank Pop, of course, second last time round. So he's with Britair, so he's in a strong
and leading the Barcelona until they lost the rig.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a lot of good players here, but Barcelona and Vendée, you shouldn't not compare the two. The two are not comparable, and the minute
is that because the Barcelona is the non-stop stop race?
Yeah, well, there is that, but more's the point is double and solo are really, really different, and this race really sorts the men out from the boys.
Well, there's no question that you are one of the men. I mean, this is like when you look up seaman in the dictionary. There's a little picture of a tadpole, and then there's you. But I think the important thing for you, be far enough ahead of Alex.
Well, I mean, I think not to look at Alex is probably the best bet. But Alex and I got stuck side by side a few years ago, and that only ended badly. So I mean, the reality is Alex is in a unique place this time. I mean, he's a real contender, and he's got a great boat. He's gelled with that boat, which is unusual for Alex. He's had a tough 4 years with boats that he's had to try to believe in, even though the
evidence didn't work.
The evidence didn't seem to stack out, and now at last he has got a boat. But this boat's a light boat, and he needs to respect that. And
I think Britain certainly has the best chance to win a Vendée of any time since the beginning.
Yeah, I think with these two boats, we're in very strong shape. And I mean, going against me, I suppose I'm a little bit older. I find it a little bit harder. But I think what always happens with me is once a gun goes, and I see the boats around me, something triggers inside my head that just lets me operate in a competitive style. So,
what about you're no spring chicken, right? You've done this a lot of times. You're I think the oldest in the fleet.
I'm not the oldest.
You're not? Okay. How old are you?
52.
52.
Yeah,
okay.
52.
I'm
not the oldest by a couple.
Fair enough. I apologize. I don't mean to. You can beat me up later, and you can. I mean, you're fit as hell. But the question is this: we get older. It takes longer to recover. We get more sore. Is there any way that you approach things a little differently because you're not 40 anymore? And do you have more painkillers on board? Do you have a recovery regime? Do you have?
That's really weird. Well, the strange thing was when I did the race in 2000, I survived on painkillers, ibuprofen, and got it with my best friends, and and then I did the race in 2004, and I survived on painkillers. 2008, no, nothing. I think, and then now
did your nerves all die?
When I don't, maybe nothing at all. Just didn't get into that bad a shape. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I had back problems when I was a bit younger, and now I'm sort of hyper aware of that. So as a consequence, very unusually for me, I've spent some time in the gym, which is not my natural habitat. But this year I've realised it helps, and I think train hard, fight easy. It's a good adage for the Vendée.
Fair enough. Train hard, fight easy. Look, man, have the best time and great luck. Check out GAMESA. We're big supporters of wind power, obviously, and go Britannia.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Ryan.